I've been wanting to do a series of arcade videos for a while now, but could never find the right, like not the right method, but a method that would suit me down to the ground, the least amount of work involved, etc., etc. With regards to arcade machines, no, I don't own any, so everything's going to be through emulation, which can be a sore point to some people, but at the end of the day, the way I see it, I'm playing a game. We're all playing games. If people are going to start being a bit sort of, purist and retro Nazi-ist about it all, then I've to be honest, I got no time for that. It doesn't interest me whatsoever. I really don't care how you play as long as you play. I mean, all right. Before we start getting involved in game piracy, that's a little bit different. But for sort of conservation's sake, I don't have an issue with emulation whatsoever. So what I did, I was watching a documentary yesterday, and I saw on that a game that I remember playing in the arcades when I was a kid, not Space Invaders. It was a different game, and I remember thinking, oh God, I'd like to check that one out again. And what I've done is I've put a series of emulators now on my Ouya console because I picked one of them up recently. Tried out the main one, got the ROM set for it, played one or two games, and decided that this was the far easiest way of recording a series of videos was from the sort of Ouya's HDMI output into my PVR recorder, rather than start doing stuff like screen capture and using PC emulators. I've gone down the Android emulation route, and that's about it really. I think I'll chuck in a few coins. Mega rich at the moment, obviously. But what I wasn't expecting when I put this one on was it was going to be using the artwork. I mean, the ROMs and stuff, it came with the artwork and the samples, which are all, essential for some games. But I didn't realise it was going to be using the outer screen artwork as well. I'm not sure if that's a way of, if there's a way of getting rid of that. I hope there is, because I'd rather have a full screen game. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm not very good at these kind of things. I'd rather have a full screen game than authentic arcade experience. Then, I mean, for now we'll just leave it in. I can't be bothered with looking or tracking down individual art files, or whichever one needs to be removed gets removed. I think they call them bezels or bezels, or I don't even know how that's pronounced, but the outside of the game artwork personally needs to go if I'm going to be sat here, because despite the fact that I'm actually sat in bed at the moment, healing a tattoo that I had last week, and I'm sat with a 40-inch Sony Bravia at the bottom of my bed, literally about 6 inches away from my feet. It's still a bit bloody small. I can never get that little bastard at the top. Oh, there we go. Just did. Piss. So yeah, so I wasn't expecting the screen to be so fucking small when I started this up. But I decided to the first video to be Space Invaders, as it was one of my favourites as a kid. But it wasn't the one that got me into thinking about doing the video today. As you can see, I'm not brilliant. No, that game was Radar Scope. I was watching a documentary about Donkey Kong and how they used the Radar Scope cabinets for Donkey Kong, because I don't think Radar Scope did very well I quite liked it. I remember it was a game that I played in the arcade, and I was there with a couple of school friends who had gone off and, you know, kind of walked off, played their own games or whatever, and came back and genuinely wouldn't believe me when I said, no, I'm still playing the same game with the same credit. They didn't get it. And, you know, anybody watching this now would probably understand as well that, you know, how could he last with one credit? But I did. I lasted a long, long time with that game. But it wasn't Space Invaders, you know. It wasn't anything with a name that I could remember. Radar Scope, um, and it was just really weird yesterday to watch this thing and to remember. Shit, that was the game. You know, that was the game I've been wanting to track down for years. I mean, I've been online, you know, for oh, I don't know, 16 years, about something like that. And the main emulator came out in something like, when did it come out? Was it 99 or something? You know, the very first incarnation of it. And I remember being fascinated with emulators when I first went online then, back in 98, August 98, I think I was online. Had my first PC, etc., etc. After spending most of the time on consoles, PS1, SNES, and what have you. I spent most of my teenage years on the Commodore 64, and throughout that time, you know, there was no game, there was no Radar Scope, there was no game that made me think, oh yeah, that was the game from when I was a kid. So to watch the documentary and to see it and kind of go, fuck, do you know, it's, you know, like a blast from the past, and you kind of think, fuck, I completely forgot all about that. It was good. It was a really good sort of a good thing. I quite enjoyed it. I mean, you know, I'm having a fairly decent weekend for a change, nice and quiet, no kids, nursing a tattoo, finding out about a game I haven't played since I was 14, and I'm now going to be 43 in a couple of weeks. You can do the maths on that one. It's been quite a while. So what I'll do is I'll probably get round to playing Radar Scope later, because it's kind of similar. It's, you know, it's a Space Invaders type of clone. Space Invaders Galaxians, that kind of thing. You know, swooping aliens, swooping ships, etc. So I'll probably try and play some of the other games that I used to enjoy, and then get round to Radar Scope. But as you can see, I won't be very good at it, so don't expect to be entertained too much. Like always, my videos are for my own personal remembrance, I suppose, like photographs in a photo album. I'm recording some of the games I used to play as a trip down memory lane, and I'm able to watch back, or even show my daughter some of the games I played, even though she's played better games on her phone than I played on my Commodore 64, and she just laughs, can't get her head round the fact that, you know, Blitz on the VIC-20 was played for hours on end in my home when I was a kid, usually by my mum, until of course she found out that there was a game called Rockman. Got you. And then she played that for hours on end. My mum being a bit of a gamer. I think now it's fucking Candy Crush on the iPad or whatever she's got. Back in the day, she did used to quite like the VIC-20. I also found out this week, due to a Twitter user, that the name of the first console that I owned. Well, I owned, you know, my dad bought it. He came home one day with this console with two controllers with pads on them, with oh, what do you call them? the like rotating controllers. What do you call them? Oh, it's escaped me now. Well, you twist a wheel for playing Pong and stuff. And he came on with one of those. And this week somebody on Twitter posted a picture of it. And I ended up being kind of over the moon. So it's been a bit of a weird week. You know, sometimes, I mean, to some people there's a lot more important things in life. But for me to remember the first console I had and the game I used to play in the arcades, it's quite a nice thing anyway. As far as I'm concerned, it's quite a nice thing. And that's it. I don't know if you were expecting me to talk about Space Invaders and give you a brief sort of history rundown. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to play the games and I'm going to talk. And if you listen or you don't listen, you like it or you don't like it, that's just how I roll, I guess. And that's that. That's Space Invaders. Part of me wishes I'd gotten rid of the big graphics with the artwork before playing it. Maybe I'll redo a video again. But for now, that was Space Invaders. There you go.